Life moves pretty fast.
And I feel like it's getting harder and harder to find peace and quiet. And even when I do find it, it's hard to sit still or relax without reaching for my phone.
So a couple years back, when a book I was reading mentioned a place that's been called the quietest place in America, I knew I had to go find it and experience it in person. And that's exactly what we're going to do in this episode of the Studio Review. The quietest place in America is a specific spot located within the Hoh Rain Forest, which is about 4 hours from Seattle in Olympic National Park. The rainforest has been described as one of the most pristine and untouched environments in the US. I was recently in Washington to attend a Harlem Globetrotters game, so I set aside the next day to drive out to Olympic and hike to the coordinates that have been designated as the quietest place. The drive up there was beautiful, and after about 3.5 hours, I entered the national park and then found the parking area for the trailhead. And from there, it's about a 3-mile hike into the rainforest. When I left my hotel, the temperature was about 70 degrees, but the rainforest was almost 20 degrees cooler. As I started hiking, I thought about the reason the book mentioned this in the first place, which is the same reason I wanted to go so badly. And the reason is that silence is an increasingly rare phenomenon.
I'm very concerned that our society is much more interested in information than wonder, in noise rather than silence. Oh my, this is a noisy world.
All right, I am hiking out to the spot, and it's pretty quiet.
I passed a few people early on, and some of them were talking to each other, but for most of the hike, I was completely alone.
My footsteps sound like the loudest things in the world. Right now I can hear the sound of the river, which is about 100 yards to my right. I can hear the wind going through the trees. I can hear birds. And then just myself. I can hear myself breathing. I can hear myself walking. I can hear the straps on my backpack moving around. It's kind of wild. I'm currently at like 1.2 miles. So 2 miles to go. Did not bring appropriate footwear. You hear those birds? Somebody's got to tell them to keep it down. Getting a little closer to the river and it feels really, really loud.
And maybe you're watching this and you don't like silence. Like, maybe you don't necessarily want more silence in your life. But here's why I think it's crucial, at least for me. Another book I read talked about how we used to have built-in pockets of margin throughout the day. Walking down the street, waiting in line, sitting at stoplights, maybe even getting home from work. And during those little pockets, we're aware of how we're feeling, we're reflecting on our day, we're thinking about what we have coming up. But now it's easier than ever to turn on the TV, to have a podcast on, to scroll on Instagram. Essentially, we've filled that margin in with noise, even if it's just visual noise. And I don't know about you, but when I do that, I get to the end of my day and I feel like, man, today was really busy. I feel a little stressed. Feel like I haven't had a second to slow down and breathe. But that's not entirely true. I had that time, I just filled it with something else. So lately I've been more and more convinced that a better life actually means slowing down, reclaiming those margins, those opportunities to rest and reset. And I'm grateful to get to partner with brands that feel the same way. Manta Sleep is the sponsor of this episode, and they also reject the premise that you need to speed up to get the most out of life. Manta Sleep makes the best sleep aids on the market, including the highest quality sleep masks I've ever tried. In addition to their original mask, they also have cooling masks, steam masks, weighted masks, sound masks, whatever you need. Honestly, whatever will set you up to sleep better, they've got it. Like these blue light glasses and these travel pillows, which are really portable and can be worn a bunch of different ways. I'm a big plane sleeper. I like to sleep on planes, and this pillow offers way more support than the travel pillow I had before. And since it's inflatable, it takes up way less space. I love that Manta Sleep is pro-nap and anti-hustle culture. They know that working 18-hour days is actually counterproductive, especially if you're not going to squeeze a little nap in there somewhere. So if you want to reclaim some energy by getting better sleep, you can click the link below or head to mantasleep.com and use code REVIEW to get 10% off your order. They also offer free shipping to US customers regardless of order size. That code is spelled REVUE for 10% off your order from Manta Sleep. Sleep, by the way, was named by the CEO of Netflix as one of their top competitors, right up there with YouTube and Facebook. So why don't I just stop using my phone? Well, first of all, these devices are designed to be addictive.
Have you noticed if you ever log into Twitter, as an example? So there's an extra delay that you don't know how long it's going to take. It's between 2 and 3 seconds. where the number of new notifications on Twitter you have. So why is that there? Well, it makes that into what's called a variable schedule reward. It's like a slot machine. So you're playing the slot machine, and there's a time delay, and in that time delay, your anticipation's building, and then you get to see how many notifications I get. And so you become more addicted to checking it again the next time.
Louis C.K. was on Conan like a decade ago and talked about this exact thing. And I want to acknowledge that in the time since this interview, a lot of misconduct has come to light, so I want to condemn his actions. But I think that what he has to say about this is incredibly accurate.
The thing is, you need to build an ability to just be yourself and not be doing something. That's what the phones are taking away.
Yes.
Is the ability to just sit there like this. That's being a person, right?
Yes.
No one can, you gotta check. Because, underneath everything in your life, there's that thing, that empty, forever empty. You know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
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 And sometimes when things clear away, you're not watching it, you're in your car, and you start going, oh no, here it comes, that I am alone, like it starts to visit on you. And then you go, that's why we text and drive. I look around, pretty much 100% of people driving are texting.
Yes.
And they're killing, everybody's murdering each other with their cars.
Yes.
But people are willing to risk taking a life and ruining their own because they don't want to be alone for a second.
Recently, I've been trying to ask myself, who am I when I don't have any notifications? Like, who would I be if my social media presence, my phone number, my favorite YouTube shows all disappeared forever? All I'd have left are the in-person relationships, the people right in front of me and all around me. It sounds crazy, but it feels super different to think about my identity when I don't have any of that to steal my attention. That's part of the reason I set out on this hike with the goal of not using my phone at all. When I was back at the car, I scribbled down some directions on a piece of paper and then powered my phone down. That turned out to be slightly problematic because I started to get worried that I had passed the place where you're supposed to go off the trail. According to the instructions that I had, once you cover the 3.2 miles into the rainforest, there was supposed to be a unique looking tree. According to my running watch, I'd already done more than that, but I hadn't found the tree, so without a better solution, I just kept walking, and fortunately, I found it eventually. From that tree, you're supposed to go a decent way off the path, and I got pretty confused because it wasn't immediately clear where to go. This didn't strike me as a frequently used trail, and I should probably clarify why this particular spot was chosen as the quietest place in America. First of all, it made sense to do it in a national park because they're protected by law, and this space is different from other national parks like Yellowstone or the Grand Canyon or even the Hawaii volcanoes because there aren't any commercial airline routes that cross over it. There also aren't any roads that cut through this part of the park. The project that designated this as the quietest place in America is called 1 square inch. And the idea is that in order to preserve the silence of a 1 square inch area, you actually have to preserve miles and miles around it. They say that if nothing is done to preserve and protect quiet places like this from human noise intrusions, natural quiet may be non-existent in our world within the next several decades. Once you make your way into the forest, there's supposed to be a 1-inch red stone marking the official location of the quietest place in America. And I was pretty sure I was headed in the right direction, but I could not find this redstone for the life of me. So I actually did end up pulling out my phone to confirm that I was following the directions correctly. I was able to confirm that I had ended up in the right spot, but the only thing I can come up with is that maybe someone decided to take the stone home with them. Kind of ironic for a project about preservation, but what are you gonna do? After I double checked the location, I put my phone away and tried to just sit and take it all in.
Who's made a difference in your life?
Oh, a lot of people. But a lot of people who have allowed me to have some silence. And I don't think we give that gift very much anymore. I'm very concerned that our society is much more interested in information than wonder, in noise rather than silence. How do we encourage reflection? Oh my, this is a noisy world.
To be honest with you guys, it wasn't mind-blowingly quiet. It felt like the biggest thing I needed to survive was my own restlessness, but I think I knew coming in that this wasn't going to be a quick fix. This concept, this idea of the quietest place, it's more about the preservation of the space around it. And I think that's kind of a cool metaphor, because in order to get a few minutes of peace and quiet, I have to change a lot more than just those few minutes. I have to change other things about my life, or else my mind is still distracted. If you're interested in thinking about that for your own life, I'll drop some book recommendations in the description below that have had a big impact on how I think about that. Normally I end my episodes by reminding you that even when it doesn't feel like it, it's gonna be okay. And I still want you to remember that, but I also want to pull back the curtain a little bit and say that it's tough to have a completely authentic experience when the camera's on. So today I want to leave you with this scene from one of my favorite movies.
If I like a moment, I mean me, personally, I don't like to have the distraction of the camera. I just want to stay in it.